Pat Cashell describes his life as a nightmare during his years of drug abuse, which eventually led to homelessness. Pat started experimenting with drugs at the age of 14. When he was 28, he advanced to meth.
Meth came into my life at 28. So
At 28?
yes.
So it was quite a journey for you before you got to that point.
Yeah.
And your family and friends, what are some of the things they tried to do to get you clean?
Interventions, taking things away from me, letting me live on the street, letting me live in warehouses, not talking to me, more interventions, more family meetings, more arguments.
Did you go to rehab any time during those years?
No, I went to rehab at 38. So it was 10 years of meth use, then rehab, and then I got kicked out of rehab after 4 days, and then and that's when I came back to Reno and actually got together with Franz.
Okay, so that kicked off your recovery time.
Yes.
But tell us what it was like to live on the streets. Tell us what it was like to be an addict.
It's the worst. So the worst part about living on the streets is being homeless. To not have a place to lay your head at night, to not have a place to have dinner, or not to go days without eating. It's the worst experience in the world. Not to mention the homelessness, and on top of that, the drug addiction. Where am I going to get my next drug from? Where am I going to get my next meal from? Where am I going to sleep tonight? I mean, it's just constantly going on.
It sounds like a nightmare you lived for a decade or more. But did something click in you and say, I'm kind of tired of this?
So I went to rehab in Southern California, and it was near the ocean. And so it didn't click when I got home. It clicked when those 4 days changed my life. And so in Southern California, being a meth addict, everything's black and white. And so when I went to Southern California and got away from Reno, I felt sun on my face. I saw the ocean. I don't want to get all weird and spiritual here, but I saw the colors of flowers. And more importantly, I saw families having fun on the beach. And something during those 4 days, I was like, I want that. And I'm determined to get that. And so when they threw me out, because I belonged, I didn't necessarily belong in a rehab. I belonged in a mental institution is where I belonged, because I went crazy. And so when they kicked me out, I came home, and I remembered those feelings I had of happiness. And I was, and so I sought out friends. Franz is one friend who always looked for me on the streets, or was constantly checking in on me to see if he could help me. And so I went and knocked on his door.
Well, he came to my office, bloated, totally out of shape, and it brings tears to my eyes to think about it. He was emotionally distressed, and I dropped everything and I said, Pat, we're going for a walk. And he shared what he's going through. So we hiked up to this peak, which is right behind our property, where I think he needed to make multiple stops because he was so out of shape. And he took it on himself and hiked then up there, I think over 170 times there in a row, and found a new outlet to redirect his energy.
When you got home from rehab, what was that first few weeks, or what was that first year like for you getting back into society?
It was brutal. And it wasn't even the first year, it was the first 5 years. And it's still, even at 7 years clean, it's still a process that still goes on.
Have you forgiven yourself?
Not 100%. I don't know that I ever will. Just because of the, I know my family and my friends have, but I know how bad I hurt them. Because it doesn't just affect you. And that's what a lot of addicts don't realize. You're not just destroying your life, you're destroying, it's a ripple effect, you're destroying everybody around you.
Well, you went away and you came back, and you certainly are a much, much better person than you were then. You're very mature, and somebody that a lot of people look up to.
Well, and so it's hard because, at 46 years old, I'm just starting my life. I mean, I started my life when I got sober. And so that when you're using, you don't, any kind of progress in life, mentally, it's all stunted. And so that's not one of the harder things, is just starting my life at such a late age. but I've accepted the challenge.
Pat has become very involved with Quest Counseling and Consulting, which is a nonprofit agency specializing in outpatient adolescent substance abuse services, as well as having a transitional living program for boys.
We have been predominantly an outpatient program for substance abuse and mental health and co-occurring disorder services. And last year, we had the opportunity to purchase this beautiful home in order to start Quest House, which is actually a transitional living facility for adolescent boys ages 13 to 17. And we decided to do this because up until that point, for the last probably a little over 3 years, there had not been a nonprofit bed in this part of Nevada for boys that had a substance abuse or mental health problem. So we just decided that there was a huge void in the community and that we really wanted to try and fill that gap. And so we opened Quest House July 31st of 2012.
I mean, I encourage anyone, especially families that have adolescents, because Quest is for adolescents ages 13 to 17. If they're struggling, to seek out Quest and get help from them.
When Pat helps with the boys, it really gives a lot of credibility to the idea of recovery, since Pat has been, in a very similar position to what many of these boys have been in. They look up to him. It's like, oh my gosh, he was living the way we were living, and he pulled himself out, and he did all of these really positive things in order for him to put his life together. Maybe I can do that too. So he has a lot of credibility with our kids in the program.
On his road to recovery, Pat Cashell became an inspiration to children as well as a serious athlete. His story is one of perseverance as well as hope. Bike racing, bodybuilding contests, triathlons. I mean, I'm seeing you all over the place, and it's inspiring to all of us, even non-addicts. So I just want to compliment you on that.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. It's just really good for our area.